Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you for joining me here. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. Thank you again so much for joining me here and the awesome feedback from yesterday. We got a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new members over our community. Heads up, we do have a discount or promotion to lock in your rate for the lifetime of your membership. Link down below for that. What I want to discuss though here today is starting with XRP, this significant divergence losing that 343 support. That's likely a new resistance for us. Same thing here with SUI, lost $4 as per usual. That's heavy resistance for us at point of control, but also how well this bull flag, basically cup and handle patterns playing out. Solana, pretty straightforward, testing its support range, likely to continue to pivot off this level if Bitcoin holds its range. And then most important, I would say, is Ethereum, potential breakout here with this bull flag. So these are some important things we're going to look at. Thanks again to my community for some awesome feedback here as well from yesterday. Glad that worked out well. We took a Litecoin short, 15 hours, 28%. 51% and 48 hours for a bonk trade from a couple days ago. And of course, an older SUI trade. I mentioned that profit target yesterday at 48%. So those are all the shorts that we have here. We're not getting super crazy with shorts. While I do have a short and a long position open right now, I don't really personally feel like it's advantageous to get too heavy with either longs or shorts because we're still in this range for Bitcoin. So we're going to discuss that as well. Stick around for that. That's probably the most important aspect of trading. If you don't know what Bitcoin is doing, you're really just, you're trying to trade with your head in the sand, really. It's a simple way to understand it. So if you're going to get good at trading, get good at trading Bitcoin and then transition altcoins and understand the correlation between the two. That's what we discussed in these videos here. So let's discuss first and foremost the altcoin season index. What does this mean? I'm just going to kind of recap here, give you a quick brief overview. Last week we're at 43, today we're at 40. It's just kind of an indication of where the market capitalization is. We're at 1.51 trillion, down from roughly 1.6 at this at our highest point. Basically implying the money's flowing away from altcoins, likely going into Bitcoin because Bitcoin's been mainly range between 116 and 120. So that's good in a lot of ways, but it's kind of confusing, right? Like what the heck do we do? Are we going to break out? Are we going to pull back? What's going on? Well, the concept here is that alt season, while it's not here yet specifically, even though I think we'll still see a diluted version of altcoin season, it's relevant to understand that that's a barometer of where we're at here and that we're transitioning and moving towards that. And the main thing you can kind of recognize that with is altcoin dominance, or in this case, more so Bitcoin dominance. We see this bearish type of pennant pattern here, or bearish triangle rather. This was on my my video from yesterday, so if you're not familiar why I posted this here, the concept is that when we break this descending type of trend with Bitcoin dominance, altcoin dominance essentially decreases, and we're starting to see that shift in momentum here, where more money flows into Bitcoin, more money flows away from altcoins, and it generally is an early sign that we're going to see a reversal. So starting with a bigger picture here, just give you perspective on Bitcoin dominance. Simple way to understand is we're honoring our ascending trend here. While it's never perfect or exact, you want to be kind of careful, trading trend lines on dominance, but the concept here remains the same. It's normal and common for the price action to bounce off these levels. And we also see here back in December, that was roughly the last time we saw altcoins start to take off when Trump was essentially due to be inaugurated the month after. That all kind of came to happen, and then alts inevitably kind of wet the bed is the best way to describe it. That's kind of where we're at there. So that's the overall sense in the back end. There is no CME gaps here that were created yesterday from Bitcoin's price action. We're mostly ranging. So let's talk about this range that we're in and kind of go from there, just kind of setting the tone and the baseline here. Let's start with the back end first for Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and pull this guy up just so we understand more specifically what's what's going on with the liquidation, etc. Because these things kind of help us understand the back end. The charts don't always communicate what we need them to. And if we look here, we can see 120,000 is that upper area, 117 is the lower. Heavier concentrations here at about 118 to 119. This is open interest, by the way. Essentially just kind of a barometer of where everyone is positioned the most. Okay. If we look at this lower range here, we can see liquidation long delta is higher, implying we have more longs in the market. And if we generally understand the concept here as well with liquidation, I discussed this in all my videos. These are areas that work kind of like magnets. So we got a lot of people shorting at 122. They have stop losses and or liquidation events there. Those could get hit relatively soon, and we see the inverse here, 114,000 at the bottom. So we got these large chunks that are equally spaced away, kind of letting us know if we break a range of 116, 114 is the next target. We break 120, 122 is the next target. That's what we see there. This really quick is just a Net longs versus net shorts. On the left here, we see net longs are averaged at 118,700. So they're currently underwater. And then we got 118,200 for shorts. They're underwater too. So we're kind of seeing this argument, this fight, a battle at 118,000. My speculation, we close below 118,000, 116 to 114 is the next target. The inverse applies as well. We close above 118. It's a really tricky thing when Bitcoin ranges like it has. It's difficult to kind of gauge where it's going to go next. So that's why I like to emphasize less trades, the better. This is liquidation short. So this is long short delta rather. Altogether, the most amount of positions we have open is at 118.7. Okay. So that's roughly just kind of an accumulation of longs and shorts. So taking a look at the daily, we can see this moving average, all well and good, we're above that. So, if you ever hear me say we're gonna see like a short-term divergence or a pullback for Bitcoin, I'm not presuming or proposing we're gonna see 90,000 or something ridiculous like that. It's just a situation in which we're moving towards what we need to. Now, hold on one second. So what we wanna look at here, the important thing, I think, on the daily time frame is the divergence that you could see on the back end. So stochastic swinging down, we've got money flow index below the RSI now, and we're under our typical moving average. That in combination with this guy here, MACD diverging on the 4-hour and the daily, those are all signs that are kind of pointing down, right? So from a momentum standpoint, the early signs are there, letting us know that Bitcoin is probably more likely to go down. That's in that regard, right? The 4-hour time frame kind of tells us that we're still in decent shape for the moment because we're above all moving averages and we're above our ascending trend. But we're literally like an hour or two away from diverging and losing this support at 118. So it's hard to really gauge, but for the most part, I think we're slightly more favorable to see further downside for Bitcoin than we are to go up from here. I hope I'm wrong. We see a blast to the past upwards of 120 plus, right? That'd be very nice. So that's kind of where we're at there for Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and get on with our analysis here for small coins. Now that we got like a baseline of what's going on, right? Because now we know what's going on here with Bitcoin, for the most part, it's a lot easier to kind of anticipate and gauge where we're at with altcoins, regardless of what patterns. So the thing you want to recognize too, and people get kind of stuck on patterns, just because we have a bull flag pattern here, does not mean we're just going to go to 4,000, all right? It just implies we have a slightly larger statistical probability of that happening because of that one thing, which is why we always look at all the back-end data too to make an educated, informed decision. So let's look here. First of all, this is ETH on the right here. We can kind of see from open interest perspective, 3650 is that tentative support for us, right? We have the most amount of positions there here locally, so that emphasizes the fact that we may bounce. However, I'm not super sold on that because we have more shorts than longs in the market right now for Ethereum. So Ethereum is showing 8 billion in short liquidation delta, basically telling us there's way more people shorting than taking longs. So that means we need an extra $8 billion worth of longs to be able to offset that to push the price higher. It's a tall ask right now. And as a matter of fact, if we take a look here, actually, I forgot to look at this here. I'm curious about ETF inflow. It's still pretty high for ETH. And we have an outflow for Bitcoin roughly 2 days ago here. So this is generally unfavorable for Bitcoin, but also favorable for altcoins, because this shows us that we're seeing Bitcoin market cap coming away and likely more money being introduced into Ethereum. So it increases sustainability for this coin too. So once more, a lot of conflicting information, but we look at liquidation, we can recognize 3,900 is that upper range that could get hit next. We're technically making higher highs and higher lows towards that, but 3,400 is the lower chunk there between 3,400 and 3,500. So let's look at the charts really quick, see if there's any type of divergence or just in general where we're at. Daily time frame still looking strong. As I mentioned this yesterday too, wait until the 70 comes below, or sorry, the RSI comes below 70 on the daily time frame before you consider securing profits. So at this point, honestly, Ethereum is looking pretty strong. This implies that there's probably it's a higher risk consideration to try to short this coin right now, even though it's massively overextended, right? But overextension, as we've known in crypto, doesn't really hold up too much. It doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. And in this case here, when we're looking at the charts, we can recognize that this bull flag pattern is more likely to break up than down because we're above our point of control. And even though we have more people trying to short than long, We are seeing an increased amount and a steady amount of volume, and ETF inflows are high. So those are all contributing factors letting me think that Ethereum is going to go higher, and we should probably close our short position at 3,700 for a minimal amount of profit there just to be on the safe side. Okay, that's kind of what I'm thinking with Ethereum. Let's move on to Solana and kind of see where we're at here. Back-end data for Solana is as follows. With our open interest, we can see there's a heavy concentration at 184. That's just below the price action. I emphasize that support. It's also the previous high. So I mentioned that yesterday. Previous highs work as new lows. That's a good concept there for a consideration on a long. We do got to recognize, though, of course, we have more shorts than longs open in the market right now, which emphasizes the fact that we may see a short squeeze, but also simply put, you're going against the grain if you're taking a long right now. Generally, when I see a high short liquidation delta and other confirming bullish factors, it does imply the price is going to go up, but it also implies it's a higher risk trade. So please understand that if you're considering a long right now, even though it's kind of that support range, there's a lot of confluence, there is an inherent risk to be taken when you take a trade right now. That being said, the daily time frame, if we look here, we can see our support range of 178 to 185. It's kind of a wide range, but we saw the candle wick all the way down to 178 and some change there. So that was awesome for those who got into a potential long there. Once more, still feels a little premature with Bitcoin potentially pulling back. So overall, when we look at divergences here on the daily time frame, we're under 70 on the RSI, money flow index pulling back, we've lost our moving average. Third, it's basically a tertiary stochastic swing to the downside. These are all signs here that the likelihood of rallying back upwards is lower. Okay, so I'm not being a bear here, so to speak. I'm just telling you that there's slightly more favorability of further downside here for this coin. So it may be advantageous to average into your position on the way down. Try not to go all in at this point. Okay. Overall, 4-hour time frames also implying that we lost a 20-day SMA. We're under 50 on the RSI. These are early signs of reversal as well. So not super convinced that Solana is just going to bounce right now. Let's take a quick look here at SUI. See what's up with SUI. Let's take a look here. Back-end data. We are looking at a lot of divergence here. This is the one coin that I was very interested in taking a long in the 380 to 390 range. Kind of glad I held off on that because this coin has so much resistance above us and so much more shorting prowess right now that it's difficult to want to warrant a long position. Even though we're in that nice little support range, 360 solid support, we see so much open interest above the price. That reflects poor sustainability of the current price point and or a lot of exit liquidity if we come up to $4. So I don't really love or relish the concept of trying to take a long into that kind of resistance. Obviously between $3.80 and $4 you could see some ranging and the price may continue higher, but it's inherently a larger risk trade. I'd probably be more interested myself in a long in the 350 to 360 range, which of course, as per usual, I slept through this candle wick down to about 349. That's just kind of how it works. All the really awesome moves happen when I'm sleeping. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. If you're a part of my community, you will recognize that. All right, so let's take a look here. Daily time frame, once more, point of control, $3.80 to $4, upper resistance, or more so $3.90 to $4. We see here on the daily time frame, we're still swinging down. Our money flow index is super low. When the MFI is below the RSI on the way down, that's generally a bearish divergence, and we're also under our moving average. Those are three things that are kind of checking off the list, letting us know that it's not a good call to try to take a long right now. We have a MACD divergence as well, just about on the horizon. So while we have a nice cup and handle pattern here, and we have a nice little flag to reflect that, I think the odds of the price going up from here is lower unless Bitcoin breaks through its 120K range. If that happens, totally all good. I think that none of that matters. But if we do see 116 to 114 for Bitcoin, as we kind of already discussed, that I think we're in a position right now where it's better to be safer than sorry to either A, wait for a better long, or B, if you're going to consider a short, consider it a low risk short, low leverage, low position size. But I do personally think that we're probably due to continue a bit lower here for SUI. This is not a great situation. We're also seeing a lot of divergence here on the 4-hour. Some early signs that we might see we saw a bit of a bounce there off 20 on the money flow index, but it's still that ship has sailed. So I think further downside makes a bit more sense for SUI. XRP is another one of those ones I kind of feel that same way. And let's talk about this here first. Setting the baseline and the tone, understanding the back end data here. Once more, 343, that heavy area of influence. I've been talking about that for a week. That was a previous high, all-time high, based on the charts that you're looking at. And if somebody has the charts, I wasn't able to find it. I only looked at like 5 or 6 different charts. But But if you know which chart shows like 380 or something with the all-time high for XRP, let me know. There's some trolls in the comments that just kept mentioning that I was wrong on the all-time high, which is fine. The important thing here is that the local all-time high, local high, whatever you call it, 343 was the local high back a few months ago, just earlier this year. We retested that level, broke it, worked as a support. Now we're down below it. So we can, that gives us firm indication that 343 is like a heavy interest area. That being said, the price comes up to 343. We'll see exit liquidity, people selling their shares to break even because they FOMO'd into the top, and we're going to see rejection at that level. So 343 is the new resistance. That's the best way to describe it. We have 2.5 billion in short liquidation delta. That is quite high for this coin. And then also, furthermore, 360 to 380 is that upper range of liquidation, but this doesn't tell us too much, honestly, because the simple fact of the matter is there's way more shorts than longs right now. So taking a long against that is a bad idea. You can, however, recognize there's a lot of volume flowing in and out of this coin. So people are buying this dip, which makes perfect sense. I think $3 would be a realistic consideration for a long, which has already, once more, that ship has sailed. So let's take a look at the daily and kind of see if there's anything to tell us here, if we're shifting momentum and or diverging. We're under 70 on the RSI, lost that pretty soundly. That's, once more, I mentioned this yesterday, consider securing profits. I think we're at like 335 when I put this video out yesterday, advising that you consider securing profits. So congrats to those who actually listened and you're not one of those stubborn XRP enthusiasts. Don't get me wrong, if you're adding to your position, this is great, do so on the way down. But if you're actively trading this coin, it's a different story. You shouldn't be foolhardy and think that we're going to go to the moon because some other idiot online tells you so. I mean, we see ridiculous speculations online of $10, $20, $30 for XRP, and these people look like complete idiots. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to describe it, but it's crazy these people get so many views. Anyways, conversation for another day, but try not to be one of those persons. Trade with logic, don't trade with emotion, right? Omit your heart from the charts. I should actually create a t-shirt. That kind of rhymes. Anyways, what I'm getting at here is that we are in a we're in a pretty significant shift, right? A lot of divergences there letting us know we've lost key level support, specifically 343. And the concept of recovering back to that level and just blasting straight through it is very low. Under the premise, Bitcoin doesn't blast straight through 120, 122K. Bitcoin creates an all-time high. Absolutely, XRP will do the same thing because people just have this shut up and take my money concept here with this coin, and it's going to push. That's why we hit this level in the first place. So just be mindful of that. However, under the guise that Bitcoin pulls back, we're probably likely to see that happen, right? Or at least we're not likely to see the break, and we're more likely to see rejection. So my anticipation is we're going to see something a little something like this. Right? So it would kind of be like a descending type of trend, rejection, something along those lines. I'll post a new playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord if you're not familiar. I do have that available, links all down below. So ultimately, that's kind of where we're at here. I mean, XRP is not fantastic. I would say if you're going to dollar cost average, 320 is an excellent place to consider a limit order. The macro support range, by the way, is the 265 to 280 range. So if you're not familiar with that, that was previous high territory there before the price action pulled back or blasted through that here locally. So overall, that's kind of where we're at there. Do me a favor, always hit the like button when you watch the videos, comment below, let me know what your positions are in any of these coins. And if you like and appreciate the new format, love to hear it too. We'll look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Don't forget to join us over at BitUnix too, folks. We're gonna have a new promo next month for deposit and registration rewards. So be sure to check that out. But this is a phenomenal exchange that works great for our members who can't KYC or VPN, or they can't complete the verification. So US, Canadian members more specifically. All right, have a good rest of your day. We'll see you the next one. Thanks again for your time. Take care.